so number 7 off the quadratic/linear system worksheet. What would you like to solve for, x or y, in that second equation?
Y.
And why did you pick y?
It's not going to come on, it's not being cubed. Squared.
Yeah, it's not being squared. So, again, you can always solve for either one, but life is a lot easier if you'll take a second to choose wisely on what to solve for. So y equals 3x plus 1. That means 3x plus 1 will go in for y in the other equation. X squared minus 10x, you're welcome, plus 2 times 3x plus 1 plus 31 equals 0. Alright, so the substitution stuff is done. Now it's distribute, collect like terms, go from there. X squared minus 10x plus 6x plus 2 plus 31 equals 0. So x squared minus 4x plus 33 equals 0. Did I do that right? I think I did. And the reason I'm asking, though, is 1 and 33, 3 and 11. There's no a term, so there's no way I'm getting 4 out of this. All right, well, I'm glad we picked this one. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. So I can't use factoring. What should I do? I can't use the square root method because there's an x in there. So I either use the quadratic formula or complete the square. It doesn't matter. This one has an x squared, so complete the square is possible. B is an even number, so b over 2 would be nice. So this one wouldn't be bad for complete the square. But I'm guessing you would pick quadratic formula? Some of you would, some of you wouldn't. Either way, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Oh, I see the problem right away. I don't know what 4 times 33 is, but it's certainly bigger than 16. So this would be 4 plus or minus I times something. The something doesn't really matter. The problem is the I. So what's the answer here? No solutions. So there are, we should be a little more specific, no real solutions.
So anytime you and I go into play, it's automatically no solution. So it's no solution?
Correct, because this is where what we talked a little bit on Friday. I'm looking for the intersection of, let's see, this is a parabola, and this is a line, but it's possible that they don't intersect. And so that's the case in this problem. I don't know what the line or parabola looks like, but it looks something like this, where there is no real solution. There is no, because the I shows up. Yeah. Tessa?
If it was positive and it just didn't work out, divide out normally, would it just be that answer, the plus or minus?
Yeah, it would be that if it worked out to be a positive number in there, then that would be your x. I don't think we're going to do this to you because this would be your x solution. What would you do to get your y solution? Plug that in. Which, I mean, it's not pretty, but it wouldn't be terrible because you just multiply everything by 3 and plus 1. But so we don't do that because it's ugly, but yes, that's what would happen. So that would be 2 real solutions. They just wouldn't be very nice solutions.
So there's only no real solutions because, in this case, you can't put it on the graph?
Correct. So there are, you could say there's 2 solutions to that problem, but they are imaginary solutions. And so the graph would look something like this. So there's no intersection. There's no real solutions.
So how would you know that it's asking, or you can put imaginary in the answer versus?
Okay, that's a good question. Let's see where this Solve each system of equations. So I guess you could argue that the solution is the I stuff, but we're thinking more in terms of graphing. I'm not answering your question, but it's a good one. We want to know where they intersect. That would have been a better instruction of where do they intersect, because then it would be there is no intersection. And you could argue that the answer is whatever this I thing is. Now, you couldn't graph that, because it's like, well, what does that even mean? So that's a really good question of should we have worded the instructions better? Although this is still correct. There are no real solutions.
So it'll be like worded more clearly on the test, you think?
If it's not, you can ask me. That's something I would clarify.
Okay.
It's a good question. I'm making a note to self right now. Test directions for systems. All right, do you want to do one more? And again, 8 and 11 are posted elsewhere, so I would recommend something other than 8 and 11. 9, 10. We'll do 10. We'll do 10. Seth, you wanted 10. Which equation? No, I know which equation you want to use. Which variable do you want to solve for in that second equation?
X.
Why x?
Because it's easier.
Because it's easier. It would be easier in the other equation. It would be easier in the harder equation. Right? Solving for x or y is kind of the same thing here. So it kind of doesn't matter there, which means it's not going to matter here either. And that makes sense. If x equals y, then whatever we get for x is also going to be y. So you're right, it kind of doesn't matter. Now, we said we were solving for x, so I will substitute y in for x. But you're right, if you did it the other way around, you'd have the same equation with a bunch of x's in it. But that's okay, because x equals y. Okay, negative 4y squared minus 32y minus 64 equals 0. That's kind of yuck. Seth, what would you want to do next?
Can we take the negative out?
Or divide.
So one answer is take the negative out, one answer is divide. I would say divide, but let's divide by negative 4. Like, everything will divide by 4, so let's divide everybody by negative 4. And if this wasn't an equal to, if it was just an expression, we would have to take the 4 out. But since it's an equation, we can divide both sides by negative 4. And make our factoring much easier. Y plus 4 and y plus 4. So y equals negative 4. Anything special about that y equals negative 4?
Same as x.
It's the same as x. That's true, since x equals y. What about the fact that y equals negative 4 twice? A double root. Now, that doesn't matter a whole lot on this particular problem. It means it sort of leads to the fact that we'll have one answer, but that happened anyway. So, double roots, you don't ever have to know it's a double root. Sometimes it's helpful if you recognize what's going on. You leave that as a final answer. I'm going to take off a point.
Put it in a
Ordered pair. So negative 4, negative 4. There was only one intersection, plus the double root tells me that there's only one. It's going to look something like that, like a tangent line. Oh, that's not, again, that picture's not right because this is a y squared problem, so this would have been better to say a y squared parabola combined with a, so that's a little bit more accurate picture. You don't need the picture, but maybe it helps understand why there's one solution and what one solution looks like. Okay, your assignment is the rest of them, and you got the rest of the time to work on it. So, a good day. Hopefully you can finish. Good start to the week.